Welcome everybody on the webinar on book launch for the implementation of the integrated management system for quality, environment, occupational health and safety and energy management system.
Just to give you an example, this is a typical life cycle stage of an organization wherein starting with a design process. After designing, we go into the purchase of raw materials, have more human resource, get people on board. Production happens, then before the dispatch, the stores process, and then we have, the subsequent process of maintenance and quality, which ensures, the entire life cycle. So we'll not be talking about all the processes at the moment. I'll just talk about a couple of, or I think 3 processes, just to tell you that what our book will be talking about and how our book will make you think about all the 4 standards every time we are discussing about a management system. Let's take an example of design. Now, we have this segregated in different colors of different management systems, blue being quality management system, green environment, red safety, and yellow being the energy management system. Now, when we talk about design, when we talk about ISO 9001, we have to ensure that we are meeting the customer requirements. So that means we get the input of design from the customer or from the market. We design the product based on that. We give an output and we ensure, and then we get the data, we validate and all that stuff. It's basically talking about ISO 9001. But today, when we talk about 14001, we cannot leave away 14001 because ISO 14001 environmental management system talks about life cycle perspective as well. Now, in life cycle perspective, design plays a very important role. We have to ensure that the selected raw materials, whatever raw materials that we are purchasing or we are selecting, the production process itself, the logistics process, and the final disposal of our product at the end of the life cycle is not impacting any environmental issues. We have to ensure that the recyclability or the biodegradability of the product should be there throughout the life cycle of the product. That's what the life cycle perspective talks about in the environmental management system. Let's say, for an example, I remember doing a training in one of the OEM companies, Honda. I'm talking about way back in 2016-17, wherein we were talking about life cycle perspective in the environmental management system. And next time I had gone there, the design head, he called me and he said that we have taken a project on life cycle perspective. And I was like, what was the project? He's like, our Honda City car at the moment, if you dispose the car probably after 15 years, that's the end of life, only 54% of the parts are either recyclable or biodegradable. So what are you doing? We have taken a project that by 2024, we will improve from 54% to 72%. So we cannot say that only design aspect is only for 9,000 now. So that's also one of the areas where they have identified in the 14,001. Similarly, for 45,001, although it talks about in the procurement, but raw materials and processes that includes technology should not cause any health and safety impact to the workers or to the interested parties who are working. So we also have to ensure that when we are talking about design process, it's not just about quality and environment that we have to look into, but we also have to consider that what will be the impact of health and safety. And that's what we have covered in our book. Similarly, energy consumption. I believe as an auditor, because we talk to management, and especially, as a consultant also, we talk to the management all the time. This is the first thing that the management looks at today before ordering any equipment. They want to know what will be the energy consumption pattern. They want to know what will be the impact on the energy so that it does not impact their energy bills on a monthly basis. So this has become a management call. And that's what, through our book, we are trying to explain it to the implementers, that how you have to combine all the 4 systems while doing the design process activity. You can't just think about designing a new product in terms of quality, but all the 4. Similarly to design, let's look at procurement. But when designer has done the job, ISO 9000 talks about purchasing of materials, purchasing of equipment. We have to ensure that whatever purchase that we are doing is ensuring or is leading to consistency in the quality of product or the service that is being supplied to the customer. And that's what 9000 talks about. But procurement, I think it's one of the most important things in terms of environment, health and safety as well. And energy for sure, as we've just spoken about in the design aspect as well. During production, what are the environmental issues? What are the aspects which can have an impact on air, water, land, and the other environmental issues? And what are the controls that we are implementing into the factory or into the organization for reducing that impact? We have to identify that. That's important for us. Similarly, the material and equipment should not have any impact on the health and safety issues for our employees and other interested parties. So whatever material that we are using, so that means whatever is being purchased is not having an impact on the health and safety. And energy, again, the performance of the energy during the use of equipment for operations. That's also very, very important, because again, as I'm just mentioning, that this is now, need of the hour. Every management, every organization is focused more on energy than anything else at the moment, because they want to reduce the energy cost in the organization. I think as an auditor, whenever we look at management review meeting or the minutes of management review meeting, I would say half of the objectives are based on how to reduce the energy performance, or how to improve the energy performance and reduce the energy consumption. So that's also very, very important. Similarly, in production and maintenance, we talk about all the four things. Study to find out potential causes of failure, which can have an impact on the customer requirements. We do AIA in our production process and maintenance process to identify what are the significant aspects which can have an impact on the environment, and then we make our OCPs, our IMPs, or we control the significant aspects. Similarly, we identify the hazards and we try to control their significant risk so that it does not have any impact on the human beings. And then we do an energy review in the energy management system to find out the energy performance trends or the significant energy units. So what we are trying to explain through our book is that it's not just one standard that is important anymore. Even if I don't have ISO 14001 or 45 or energy management system in my organization, does not make me not think about environmental safety as well as energy management system. So through our book, we are helping the reader to identify at every stage how we can combine all the four standards and implement a system which is more of an organization management system. I always used to say, whenever I started doing the audits, you go to a company and they say, please open the ISO 9001 folder, or please open the ISO 14001 folder, when we are doing the audits. So now I always tell them, stop calling ISO 9000 folder or ISO 14001 folder. You should call it as the organization management system folder. Make one system, make one folder, and have the entire management system into it. And hopefully this book will help, achieving that particular process.
In fact, all these standards are talking about that the system that you are making, you have to integrate that system with the business process. So if you have to integrate the system with the business processes, one is if you have all the four separate systems, then 4 times you're trying to put it there. But now if you are integrating the integrated management system into the business processes, it becomes so easy. That's really very, very important. That's this understanding should be very clear in everybody's mind, that this requirement of the standard is very, very important. It is given in clause number 5.1. So you have to make sure that it is the responsibility of the management and the head of the departments and everybody to make sure that your system that you are making should be integrated with the business processes, right? So that's the way you have to think. Now, let us understand how we are going to see the issues of all the 4 things at a time. Okay, what we are doing is we are trying to find out for the activities that we are doing, what is the effect on quality, environment, safety, energy use. And let us say we have identified 400 such processes. Then we define even this criteria will be the significance criteria that we will be making will be common for energy, quality, environment, and health and safety. Why have different risk and opportunity criteria? There will be only one criteria. Okay, and once we have applied that criteria, let us say out of these 400, we have been able to find out 50 activities which are having significant failure issues, significant aspects, significant hazards, and significant energy uses, right? And balance it 50 are okay, they are non-significant. Now, what is to be done? This is very, very important. This should be very clearly understood by everybody. So what we do, whether we are talking of failure, whether we are talking of aspect, hazard, or SCU, we are trying to identify what is my existing control. In the case of SCU, what are we trying to do? We are trying to identify the variables for those which are affecting the energy consumption, and then for every variable we are trying to find out what are the existing controls. But the concept is the same. For whether we are talking of quality, environment, safety, or energy, we are trying to find out what are the existing controls. Okay, now the next step is, if my existing controls are adequate, good, I don't have to do anything. Okay, then what I do is I follow the control. Then I'll follow the control. What I will do is, whatever those existing controls are there, I will write those on a piece of paper. That becomes my operational control procedure. Some people call it work instruction, some people call it OCP, some people call it SOP, whatever you want to call it. Okay, so we'll prepare our operational control procedures. We give training to the people who are working on those activities. And in case of environment and safety, we prepare the emergency plan also. And then we make a monitoring plan, monitoring and measurement plan, to make sure, if you read clause number 8.1 of any standard, it is so clearly defined there. It says establish the criteria. 8.1a is establish the criteria. 8.1b is implement the criteria. So what is that criteria? The operational controls. And we have written in the form of an OCP so that it is implemented. And third, the 8.1c is that monitor and measure whether, or you evaluate whether the implementation of the criteria is taking place or not. That's what is required. And this, otherwise, let us say my existing controls are not adequate, then what I do is, then I will go to the improvement route. I will decide what further control is required. But before I think about that, any further changes are to be made in my system, I will look at the legal requirements, how much money is required, operational requirements, my own business requirements, whether that technology is available or not, and what are the needs and expectations of my interested parties. I will look at that. And if I find that yes, with the financial requirements, on his technology is available, and I find that the payback period is good, and the money involved is not much, on that basis, then I will decide the priority. Okay, I will decide the priority, whether I should call it P1, P2, P3, or P4. And then, if I find that this is okay, this is good, I'll go and make the objective and targets. So, what this route, this is called control route, and this is called improvement. So, whenever you have found significant issues, whether it is for quality, environment, safety, energy, then you find out whether the controls are good, they are adequate, they are already being done, then go for this control route. If you find there is a problem, then you go for the, that means further improvement is possible or it is required, then you go for the improvement route and do this. And this is applicable to all these standards. It is not that it is applicable to ISO 9001 or ISO 14001. No, all these standards. And I've written here quality, environment, safety, energy, everything. And now what we are trying to tell you is that we will make a common significance criteria. We will have a common operational control procedure, because it will be talking of in the existing controls. We would have written in this, whether it is quality failure or environmental problem or safety problem or energy issue. We have written the existing controls, so I don't have to write it 4 times. I write it on a piece of paper, all those controls, and that is the control I have to. That becomes my criteria for that particular operation or for that particular activity. And I give training to my people that they have to implement this operational control procedure, and then I monitor. So, friends, this is what it is.